We used to do 30 days in a year, so we would do in January, December. That's why I was asking.
Will snow dance at the end of this? You should. You definitely.
All right, on the record.
Call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call for the record. Mayor Lindsay.
Here.
Councillor Howe.
Here.
Councillor Crane.
Here.
Councillor Weeks.
Here.
And Councillor Curry.
Here.
We have a quorum. You may proceed.
Okay, at this time I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to old business, item A. Discussion, I'd like to open discussion for the amendments to Title IX zoning regulations. I believe Shelley Kaiser was going to present.
Yes, thank you. Mayor, Councilman, and Manager Weir, thank you for the opportunity to come forward. It's been a long time, but we've done a lot in the meantime. Just to kind of give a background and history for those that may not be aware, we do currently have a village ordinance 9-7-8 titled Outdoor Lighting, but it's loosely defined, it's open to interpretation, and provides very limited guidelines. And then at the mayor's and the council's request, the Night Sky Committee was formed in March of '24, and we were tasked with proposing a reasonable, understandable, and enforceable ordinance. Our objective, was to assist the council in writing an ordinance that addressed these essential elements and positions the village to pursue recognition as a dark sky community by the Dark Sky International, and perhaps becoming the first community in New Mexico to be recognized by Dark Sky International. First, I'd like to, excuse me, hopefully correct or clear up any misconceptions that have happened in the past. The Angel Fire Night Sky Ordinance was never intended to be a blackout sky ordinance. We know that's not practical, it's not safe, it doesn't happen. That wasn't our intent. Or it wasn't intended to be unduly burdensome, and it wasn't intended to be directed solely towards the benefit of visual night sky experiences. There's so much more to a night sky ordinance. This past September, this committee substantially revised the previous versions of the proposed ordinance. Instead of drawing from larger communities in New Mexico and in Texas, the reworked proposal is modeled after Breckenridge, which is Colorado's first ski mountain resort community to be international dark sky recognized. We believe this approach more closely fits Angel Fire's rural environment and the desire to be a destination community. We hope you've had the opportunity to review the restructured proposal's details. It's very much simpler in many respects, and the mechanics don't rely on lumen calculation, lumen count, but rather on approved fixtures and maximum count. So rather than going through the details of the ordinance himself, we would rather focus on why do we want an ordinance? Why is it necessary for the village of Angel Fire? So if you'd indulge us a little while, we want to take a moment to kind of step into the shoes of a representative member of the Angel Fire community. What might a community member say or ask or have an opinion? So I'm going to be talking to Deb on our committee. Much like the ordinance has in like red text a Q&A format. We're gonna do a Q&A format to explain tonight.
You want me to come up there?
We're gonna talk.
Okay. Okay, Shelley.
Yep. Yes, Miss Community Member.
Well, this is all really good and great to say we have a dark sky, see the moon, the stars, and the aurora, and all that's great. But why is it really so important that we have an ordinance?
Well, stargazing is really just a byproduct, and it's at the bottom of the list of benefits. First comes health, safety, and conservation. Over the last 100 years, humans have transformed the night sky, erasing all natural darkness with which we were evolved as humans. While artificial light at night is crucial to our modern world, it comes at a cost. A growing body of evidence links the bright sky night directly to measurable negative impacts on wildlife and ecosystems, human health, energy and climate change, crime and safety, scientific research, economics, and worldwide sky heritage. Plants and animals depend on natural light cycles to govern life-sustaining behaviors such as reproduction, nourishment, sleep, and protection from predators. Evidence even suggests that artificial light at night has profound effects on many creatures, contributing to the decline of biodiversity in the world. Increasing scientific research indicates that artificial light at night has detrimental effects on human health and well-being. Circadian disruptions has been linked to increased risks of obesity, diabetes, mood disorders, reproductive problems, and some cancers. Limiting light pollution reduces the cost of wasted energy. Dark Sky International estimates that 30% of all outdoor lighting in the U.S. is unnecessary, adding up to $3.3 billion of wasted money annually. Limiting light pollution plays a role in reducing climate impact. In the U.S. alone, unnecessary lighting produces 21 million tons of carbon dioxide a year. Lighting up the nighttime environment does not necessarily increase safety and security. Effective lighting that helps people to be safe, not just feel safe, is a win-win situation for everyone. Overly bright and poorly shielded light creates glare, impairing vision, leading to dangerous missteps and accidents. At home, poorly designed outdoor lighting can backfire on safety. Bright and misdirected lights create shadows for criminals to hide, and some crimes, like vandalism, actually thrive in well-lit areas. In towns, light for light's sake doesn't equal increased safety. A Chicago study identified the correlation between increased crime and overly bright alleyways. On the road, bad lighting creates unsafe driving conditions. Roadway lighting that causes glare contributes to accidents, especially for us aging individuals. I know it. Dark skies are essential for astronomy, astronomical observations, research, and education. Dark skies promote STEM learning in the schools. Astrotourism and dark sky parks attract visitors and support local economies. Night skies have historical, artistic, and spiritual significance across the world and many cultures.
Wow, that's a lot of information. Well, that's great. So what's this gonna cost, say, a typical business or homeowner in Angel Fire?
Businesses and homeowners need to replace bulbs anyway, every now and then. Energy efficient bulbs can use about 75 to 85% less electricity, therefore creating a cost savings. This committee has provided to the council the contact information of a municipal lighting consulting company that has worked in Eagle Nest and Jemez and several other small towns in New Mexico. For a nominal fee, they can perform an analysis and cost study for public lighting and commercial areas. And Deb, you told me the other day about your recent project to replace the exterior light fixtures at your home so that they're night sky compliant. Tell me more about that.
Well, I got online and found Amazon has anything from $40 a wall sconce fixture to $400, whatever you want to pay for a dark sky. And it's all dark sky compliant. It has LED bulbs in there. But depending upon how long you burn those lights, Up to 30,000 hours, which could be, if it's 4 hours a night, that could be 20, 25 years if this fixture is good. So I found on Ferguson Home, I found an upgraded wall sconce. I had 8 lights to replace, and I ordered them, and they have they're black, the LED is integrated, so if the light needs replaced, I have to replace the whole fixture. However, it's not that big of a deal. I went ahead, I had 8 fixtures to replace, and I installed them myself. I got up there on that ladder, and by golly, that was fun. I turned that electricity off and did a lot of problem solving and did it, so I didn't have to hire an electrician. Now let's hope I don't have a fire at my house or anything, or things spark. But it really wasn't that hard at all. And I even got some motion sensor floodlights. They're also dark sky compliant. And what I really like about those is they're very low profile. They fit on the facing of my deck. So they're maybe 7 inches tall at all, or wide, and they're just very, very low profile but bright. They have a 5,000 Kelvin, and they'll come on for 5 to 10 seconds and then go off. My other lights are 2,700 Kelvin, so they're that warm light. And you can get whatever Kelvin light you want.
Well, what were you telling me the other day about, we were on the phone and all those animals kept walking by because you felt like it was the lower light, and you had never seen them before because it was all glare.
So I had a couple of my deck lights on, my porch lights on, and they're hammered glass, and all this light goes down, and it's that warm light. And I hear all this rustling outside, so I look outside, and here comes coyotes just walking along. And they're after some deer, and then here comes a bobcat. So holy smokes, here comes some turkeys. I had a great parade at my house. It was a lot of fun. But I've never, and I could see them, and they weren't disturbed at all by the light fixtures that were on.
But before, like when you had the really bright lights, you couldn't see
See them.
Yeah. Okay, well that's really fun.
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
fun. Okay, so the benefits are good enough, the cost isn't too bad. If this is such a good deal, then why don't we just do it voluntarily?
That's a good question. Why are rules needed to organize society living in a community together? Why do we have stop signs? Can't we just see that no one's coming from the other direction? Why do we have air pollution rules for not smoking in public areas? Why do we have noise restriction rules against running a chainsaw or construction equipment before 7 in the morning? Or allowing unattended dogs to stray in the neighborhood? All things being rainbows and dancing unicorns, wouldn't it be great that we don't have to have rules to live in cooperation and community? But unfortunately, society isn't that way, and the larger a community becomes, the more difficult it is to operate on a voluntary basis. Angel Fire has lots of other public interest ordinances. The Fire Adaptive Community, it imposes rules for the greater good, not necessarily voluntary. The recent Encroachment Act, would it be voluntary, or does it impose rules for the greater good? These and many other community living rules are maybe convenient to some, but they do benefit all. Each of us has each of these rules, and others that I haven't mentioned, have enforcement challenges, but that doesn't preclude the effort to maintain our community environment and standards.
Okay. How are these other public interest rules enforced?
Admittedly, many of the public interest rules, and when we spoke with representatives from Breckenridge, they said they are somewhat complaint-driven. But asking the restaurant owner to ask the people next to you not to smoke, or politely asking your neighbor not to run their chainsaw in the morning or keep their dog from wandering, nicely calling the construction company about excessive noise first thing in the morning, these would all be real cooperative ways for society to manage living together, and it does work in a lot of cases. But unfortunately, as a community grows, so does the need for community regulations that serve the collective interests of the community as a whole.
Okay, well that all sounds reasonable, but there are going to be a lot of people that will be annoyed by another rule.
I agree. During the election cycle of 2022, the candidates were interviewed and stated their support for a night sky ordinance. The Night Sky Committee presentation at last summer's town hall meeting received significant community support. The Enchanted Circle magazine had a several-page article about night sky benefits, which largely featured Angel Fire's efforts to be a night sky community. There are some that object to any form of government oversight in their personal lives, but more community members and visitors will benefit from dark skies than the inconvenience to a few. Overall, the mechanics of the proposed ordinance is geared more towards new building construction by limiting the number and type of outdoor fixtures. For existing outdoor fixtures, the requirement is to either retrofit or replace your current fixtures within the next 5 years. It's easier to have new construction be in compliance to begin with than to have many more buildings having to retrofit in the future. And with Angel Fire expected to expand the growth, now's the time to do it. Much of village advertising to visitors and new homeowners emphasize the outdoor mountain lifestyle. Marketing promotes clean air, wildlife viewing, and getting away from the city. But if action is not taken to preserve our small town mountain community character, continued growth may diminish the benefits and make Angel Fire less attractive of a destination. Safe roads, clean airs, wildlife protection, driveway runoff, quiet neighborhoods are benefits to all of us in the community members, and visitors are protected by society-imposed rules. The sky is one thing we all have in common. No matter how we differ on other things, the dramatic sunsets belong to all of us. The blue skies and white clouds belong to all of us. The constellations and comets belong to all of us.
Well, Shelley, that's a lot of words. How can you summarize why a night sky ordinance is needed?
Adopting night sky standards advances important public, environmental, and fiscal objectives. Limiting excessive and poorly designed outdoor lighting reduces light pollution, conserves energy, and supports responsible land use practices. A dark sky ordinance protects wildlife and natural ecosystems by preserving natural nighttime conditions essential for migration, reproduction, and ecological balance. It also promotes public health by supporting natural circadian rhythms and reducing glare that can interfere with nighttime visibility and safety. From an efficiency and cost perspective, dark sky compliant lighting reduces unnecessary energy consumption, lowers greenhouse gas emissions, and decreases long-term municipal maintenance and operating costs. Properly shielded and directed lighting enhances public safety while minimizing light trespass into other properties. Finally, preserving dark skies protects community character and cultural resources, supports education and scientific opportunities, and may contribute to the economic benefits such as tourism and outdoor recreation. Collectively, these benefits justify the adoption of standards that balance necessary illumination with the preservation of a nighttime environment. Thank you guys for listening. So I can entertain questions?
You know, the lighting zones that are written in here just seem like a one-size-fits-all stamp to, single-family residential, whether it's a 1,200 square foot house or a 6,000 square foot house, still has to comply with the same amount of light fixtures.
Well, but it scales up. So the big change, and again, we'll thank Breckenridge for this, if we'll go to, let me get to the page here. Let's see. So if you go to
Page 5, item J, when it starts talking about the different structures.
Yeah, so single family, so that's a good spot for it. Item J, lighting standards for single family residential. All exterior lighting, and again, only exterior lighting is addressed in this ordinance. All exterior lighting shall be limited to a total amount equal to 2 light fixtures per entrance to a structure and a maximum of 6 additional fixtures on and around the residence that are compliant with all requirements of this chapter. So you get 6 to start, and then 2 for every ingress egress. So that's the theory, is as the home gets larger and
You get more for ingress and egress.
you get more for ingress or egress. So
Garage doors.
garage doors are also legal ingress and egress. And that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that was exactly what Breckenridge did, was, okay, the bigger the home,
You know, a 7,000 square foot home's likely not gonna have 2 exterior doors like a 1,100 square footer might.
So I did it, just before I came here, I did a calculation of what might be a standard, nice new home in Angel Fire. I'm guessing it has one entry in the front door, it has 2 garage doors. Beside the garage door, it has one, what I call a people door. And then on the upper deck, it has 4 of the sliding glass doors. And on the lower deck, it has 3 sliding glass doors. So that equals 11 entrances. And then times 2 is 22, plus 6 is 28. So, and then from there, anyone can arrange them how they feel is most important. So in this case, the person may want 2 sconces by their front door, and then 1 by this garage door, 1 between the garage door, and then 1 the other garage door, and then 1 over the people door. And then that gives me, or typical homeowner, 12 for the upper deck, for your picnic, your barbecue,
Oh, okay.
your,
Yeah, I gotcha.
your barbecue, your seating area. And then we just need 3 for the lower deck, because they're just going out into the yard. And then I've got one of those really neat standing rock signs that has like a Cocapelli or something on it. So I can have one for an architectural feature there. And then that gives me still 6 if I want to light my pathway or driveway. So, but if someone else says, well, I don't have a great big huge deck, but I've got a long driveway that gets really icy in the winter, I need more lights there. Well, then that's your choice. It's just a calculation. And then there again, the calculation only pertains to new construction. So if I have an existing home that has these doors and stuff, and you go like, oops, I'm over the count, well, that's okay. We don't use the term grandfathered in, but we just ask that in the next 5 years, you retrofit them or replace them like Deb did, or retrofit them. There was another house that had the kind of the coach lanterns, and that had the glass on 4 sides and the bulb, and then all they had to do was put copper plates that way so that it's fully shielded, downward facing. So that it just makes it so much simpler.
So you get a maximum of 6 additional fixtures per.
6 is the base, plus 2 for every ingress egress.
And then you can arrange, so that gives you your total number, and you can arrange those
However you want.
So within, there's a certain
Okay? Right.
No.
No, that was Deb's example, how she did her own, and she had 8 light fixtures, and she purchased the upscale one, so it was like 190 each.
Yeah, 190.
But when she went online, there were options for like $40 fixtures that were night sky compliant, fully shielded, downward face. So we're not asking homeowners to spend thousands of dollars, no.
The other point there would be can lights, by the nature that they're already down lights, in general are already gonna be dark sky compliant. So if you have a home that already has 15 can lights on it and 8 sconces, well, the sconces may be able to be modified to be night sky compliant, but the can lights shouldn't need any attention, essentially.
Well, nothing's perfect, and again, kind of my example of the stop signs, I know for a fact that not everybody stops at every stop sign. I've seen other people pass through. But that doesn't mean that we pull all the stop signs because we can't get everybody to comply. And I think, again, focusing on reasonable, if there's guests coming, or if you're yourself arriving late, to have it on past 10 the first night is fine, because that's necessary for them to find the place. That's not egregious, and we really don't want perfection to get in the way of something that's really good. And it would be perfect if all lights were off by 10, but we're not asking for perfection, we're asking for reasonableness. Again, we don't want perfection to get in the way of something that's really good. We have to have a place to start in order to have a place to get to.
And that's the purpose of this work session too, and I think, these are all still good to have this discussion, because for instance, if we agree, say in the end that all fixtures have to be replaced and night sky compliant by the end of 5 years, we could nix the 10 p.m. rule on day one. Because to Owen's point, once you make it a law, then it is enforced. Again, whether it's enforced or not, I can't say how it's enforced exactly, but it is enforceable and should be.
Right.
So we don't want to start fudging it right away if we're passing. So to that point, I could understand if we agree to change out fixtures in the next 5 years, I think it's reasonable to be able to leave a non-conforming light on past 10 p.m. In certain instances. There is still a current nuisance lighting ordinance, and I think if someone were to complain because someone's floodlight is on all night, every night, that's a legitimate complaint. So again, the purpose of this work session is to just work through the finer points. We'll say after several iterations, this is the one that's been the most palatable to me, and I know they put a lot of work into this as well, and Breckenridge as well, but I think there's still some modifications that could be made.
Mayor, council, yeah, that's a great question. I actually haven't had a chance. I do have a meeting with Luis Reyes from Kit Carson tomorrow morning, and one of the items that we'll be discussing is the cost of streetlights. But we're gonna have to actually go out and do an inventory of all of our buildings to be able to formulate an answer to that. It'll take me some time, maybe a month, to get those numbers together. I just didn't have enough time, sorry.
And that's why, in a couple of cases, this committee has provided different resources. One of them that I spoke with felt like Angel Fire was too small, but Buddy Stenhoff with Crossroads LED, like I said, worked with Eagle Nest and Hamus Springs, and is very willing to either come and give the council a presentation. I think he gave a modest quote for an analysis and a cost analysis study. So there's resources to draw from, so you don't have to start out from scratch. Yes, definitely work with Kit Carson. My understanding is that there's also, like you said, an inventory, a confusion on what lights the village is responsible for versus the resort versus the highway department. So there's some work, but I have a high degree of confidence in the gentleman I spoke with to be able to assist in a cost analysis study. That's his job.
Mr. Mayor, and that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm gonna take you up on that offer. But the issue is that there is, as she stated, on which lights, who's responsible for them. But Kit Carson's the one that fixes all of them regardless of who's responsible. So my hope is to get a number from Kit Carson for all the lights, regardless of whether they're village rights or DOT rights, lights.
I would just like to add and thank the committee for all this time and hard work on this. We do have an ordinance on the books right now. It is not specific enough to even pretend to put a complaint through. And we have the option of doing nothing, but I just want to let everyone know the current record for number of can lights upon submission to architectural control is 65. So if we do nothing, we're gonna continue to see homes that are either going for Architectural Digest or Homes of the Southwest or something that are just going to be lit up like every day is Christmas. And that's okay, but I don't think that's what the committee wanted, it wasn't necessarily what I wanted either. There's no way to do this without injuring someone. Someone at some point is going to have to go address the lights that are not dark sky compliant, but doing nothing just kicks the can down the road to make it harder, and to have, you know, more and more homes that are excessively lit, in my opinion.
And, Mr. Mayor, Council, Councilman Curry also asked me about how would this be enforced. And, so, in the language, I have a few places marked up. I mean, this is gonna have to go to legal counsel, but we should, refer to a building official. That's the way it is throughout the rest of our ordinances. And you have it just a couple of different ways. It's not a big deal. It's just a little cleanup work that needs to be done. But the building official, which basically is our director of planning and zoning, typically, they would have to work in conjunction with code enforcement to enforce these policies. It would not be something that would be subject to our police department, but it would be code enforcement. So, you know, basically the way it's gonna have to work is either the council's gonna have to come up with some additional budget to have somebody work one night a week or something, one night a month, I don't know what that number would be. Or we're just gonna have to do it strictly on complaint, and then we'll have to deal with the time. Because if somebody complains about it, you know, unless it's counting cans, we might be able to go do that. But if it's gonna deal with any brightness or lumens or any of those types of things, it's gonna need to be done at night. So I don't know exactly what those costs are gonna be. I mean, I guess I could, off the top of my head, you know, my experience with new ordinances like this is the compliance is pretty heavy in the beginning, and then it wanes, and eventually you're almost never doing it. You know, it's kind of spot check, but in the beginning, I think it would require some additional funding, at least an extra day or two of funding for the code enforcement officer to enforce the code.
And to address your statement about a designated city village official, that's why we put so many words in there, because sometimes we have a code enforcement officer, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have a director of planning and zoning, sometimes we don't. So we said, this, or as designated by the village. So
No.
whatever's in place at the time would be the enforcement.
I'm not trying to complain about what you did. You made a great effort to try and accommodate the possibilities. In our code, we've overcome those possibilities just by using the term building official. And you can even define in here, if you want, what a building official is. It's defined elsewhere in the ordinance, so it doesn't have to be in here, but if you just, like in Title 8, it's building official.
So that's like saying as designated by the village,
Yeah.
because that's kind of
Just say building
fluctuates.
official, and then it basically allows us to pick who's gonna go do it.
Any other, so I guess, this being a work session, we can't take action, but we would like to request that you put this on an agenda of a village council meeting so that it can be acted upon. Is that how the process goes?
Manager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I did have one question about this ordinance, and that is the light trespass. I guess if this is dark skies, even the example given in here from light trespass is somebody downhill from a light. And that's the one thing that, I get it, we're trying to darken the skies, and I'm actually in favor of it. But the light trespass, I think that's gonna be.
So I believe that light trespass was taken out of this current, would it remain in the definitions? But it's not addressed in the ordinance. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. It's not part of the standards, but it's in there for an explanation. Also, like in the instances where someone would be complaint driven, they could refer to the term light trespass, but as far as the count for number of fixtures or the style of fixtures, light trespass is not part of something that's enforceable. Did I say that right?
Okay. It's also, I think, a little bit, you're trying to write a standard to an organization in dark sky in the hopes of getting all of the goodies that come along with being a dark sky community. So that definition, light trespass, I think it was in every town's definition section we reviewed as a committee just by default.
And again, long-term, if the village would want to pursue being International Dark Sky recognized, then we're trying to orient this ordinance to be in line with what they're doing. And even though, you know, Breckenridge was the first recognized dark sky community in Colorado, the ski area, and again, they're focusing not on lumens or light trespass or glare, because those are hard to define, hard to measure, hard to not modify, but anyway, enforce, thank you. But counting the number of fixtures in the new construction, that can be done. And so, I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but now Dark Sky International, in their recommendations, is more following the Breckenridge's model, which is what we're following. So we're trying to put us on the path of being the first community in New Mexico to be dark sky recognized.
It's very similar to using an FPA language in the Defensible Space Ordinance. You have to use the language of the governing body and what you're
Yeah.
trying to do.
So I just wanna show that I really do appreciate those measures, mention all the hard work that you and the committee put into this. What I wanna make sure too is that when we do bring this for action again, that it's something that hopefully would succeed. It sounds like there's still some questions there. One thing that I've encouraged the Dark Sky Committee to do is to pass a new construction policy, I think, and then continue to possibly work on some of the others if there's still contention points. If that would be something that, again, I don't wanna take away the work you put in here, and again, this is the best iteration that I've seen so far. But I would like to see something personally in place before the next building season. I don't wanna go yet, because as you pointed out, this has been almost 2 years now. So we've had 2 construction cycles, with new construction, without any enforcement of the dark sky. So, and that's also, I think, by far the easiest place to start. I think the others, unless the council wants to debate any timeframes or anything like that, I think the fact that you're not asking for a reduction in existing lights and that sort of thing, but there is a lot to unpack with that, as Councilor Curry pointed out, and it can cost certain owners. It's gonna be a minimum of hundreds, if not thousands. I don't think that was a fair statement. But again, I just wanted to let you know that I fully support this iteration of the new construction, at the very least.
Okay, but beyond the very least, or can you be specific on something that?
I mean, I can't speak for the other counselors.
Okay.
I just wanted to kind of take a temperature of the council, and based on some of the questions, I just wanted to see if that was something that would be, I want them to understand that this document can still have some changes prior to going to a council meeting, but I would like to see it in a council meeting sooner than later.
Right, and we fully agree, because like you said, a new construction cycle coming up, because we are more oriented towards new construction, because that's the point where we say, if not when, if not now, when?
Right.
Yeah,
And
but,
new construction can lead
Right.
by example. Again, I think we're gonna have to bite the bullet at some point, and continue. But I don't wanna see the dark sky lose more over the course of another year while we debate the finer points, if that's something the council isn't comfortable with. I think Councilor Crane obviously worked with you on this document, but it sounds to me like there may be some concerns. And again, this is the time to bring those up
I guess
if you have any.
I would just ask the question, if the modification of the 10 PM cutoff is Councilor Curry's biggest objection, that's a fairly simple thing. If there are other concerns, then I think the committee deserves to hear them
And that's what I'm asking for, right now. If there's any other concerns, I could support taking out the 10 PM language, with a 5-year or, 5-year timeframe to put a compliant fixture in. Manager Weir?
Mayor, council, my only other issue with this is a very easy fix in that we would take the pricing out of the ordinance and say that the fee, the charges for noncompliance would be determined in resolution, and then do a separate resolution that contained exactly what's in here for pricing. Just separating pricing typically is done in resolution because it's easier and quicker to change that way than an ordinance. So that's another really minor change that I would make in this.
And I agree, that was a question that I had, was our liaison, who's been so helpful, Jake, we really appreciate it, was talking about how there's a difference between an ordinance and policy. And I was thinking, like you, if the fines and penalties were a part of policy, then they're easier to change than coming in and having to change. I think we still need something in the ordinance to give it teeth, otherwise why have an ordinance? But the exact procedures and stuff may be better included in policy so that they can be more easily changed. And my understanding is that the village staff cannot create policy which would be in large conflict with the spirit of the ordinance. It just supports, explains, and understands. Kind of like IRS regulations aren't IRS law.
It's similar to that. I mean, there's actually multiple designations of the things that we operate by. But they're the ones that are legal, that are enforceable are ordinances and resolutions. You know, I can't, if we have a policy and somebody breaks it, I can't ask Chief Hogriff to go enforce it or anything like that. A policy is more procedural in nature, and there's different kinds of policies, to be frank. But I think we could accomplish a goal just simply in, I had it marked up, can't remember which page, like page 7, I think, if I remember correctly, wherever that, yeah, so on page 7, paragraph in section B, penalties, item 2, where it says as follows, just change that to will be determined in resolution. And then you do a resolution that has the whereas, and Leona knows how to do all that, and you just take this exact same chart and you stick it in a resolution and you're done.
Okay. So I guess I don't understand resolution.
And I don't wanna get caught in the
Okay.
semantics right now. I think the attorneys, once we give this to the attorneys, they're gonna make some small, minor changes as well.
Okay.
But what we want is a document that everybody feels comfortable moving forward to the attorneys, so when we get it back, it is something we can vote on.
Mhm. Okay.
So I guess my question, I wanna ask Counselor Weeks if he had any other questions or concerns.
I think on the commercial and overlay district too, and I may just be misunderstanding it, but it says 2 light fixtures per entrance and a maximum of 3 additional fixtures on and around the facility. Could that, on and around the facility, be per building?
Right. Like, the committee was thinking these little small strip centers. So each business would have 2, and then 3 more for the eaves for like the whole property, the whole commercial entity. So we felt that would be enough to be sufficient. Again, this is new construction. Existing construction would just have to modify so that they're downward shielded, that we don't have spotlights.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm all for that. The only, I mean, I guess my perfect example is I have storage units, right? And I have 5 buildings, or 4.
Yeah.
And I just want to put like 3 lights on each side of that building, but low.
Right.
Because I'm.
Downward facing and all that.
And it's bare minimum lighting.
Well, my example, and excuse me for being specific, but driving south from the blinking light, and I go past the car wash, and then there's another car with the halogen lights coming at me, and here's the car wash, and here's the other car, and I go, oh, I'm so glad that it's so bright out here so I can see that elk there. Well, I can't see anything with those lights in front of me. So that's the safety part of it, yeah. So
I
that,
think the
that's.
street signs are too bright. But, so, I mean, my example would be that one building may have 6 lights on it because I've got lights on each side, but maximum.
But you would have, the doors would also,
Yeah, so,
Well, one per door.
one per
Yeah.
door.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do one per door at all.
well, but that's,
You're
you'd
allowed that.
You'd be allowed to.
be allowed one per door,
So you can
and then
put-
if you,
Put 20 on each side.
yeah. Yeah.
Not encouraging that.
When I saw entrance, I was thinking entrance into the complex.
No, it's ingress, egress to any building. So that would be garage doors, man doors,
People doors.
people doors. Pedestrian doors.
Counselor Curry, did you have any other concerns? I know, the 10 PM and, any other
Costs.
discussion on the time frame or any other? And I don't think that's, I think if it's not on, it would not. Yeah, so I think we could change that language too, that you could just remove a bulb, extinguish the light, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Well, again, retrofitting would be a lot less expensive than replacing a fixture.
Or
And
just-
like I said, you know, we have these really good coach lights, and it has to be permanent, you just can't paint
Yeah,
it
and I
black or
understand
anything like that. but,
Owen's
yeah.
point is
Yeah.
whether you're using the fixture or not.
Yeah, we never
you could-
use our exterior lights.
You could be fined for having a non-compliant fixture hanging on the wall,
Right.
whether it's being used or not. So some language, concern that, is everybody okay with the 5 years to bring them into compliance or to extinguish them? I just wanna make sure we go over the discussion of the major sticking points.
Well,
in
I
the
was,
past.
we spoke with a representative who worked on the night sky ordinance in Los Alamos. And I think their timeline was 10 years, someone else has 20. And if, I know for me personally, maybe I'm being generalized, but if I've got 10 years to do something, I'm not gonna even think about it till year number 8. And year number 9, I might start thinking about it. Year 10, I go, oh my gosh, 10 years is up. And so I think a 5-year timeline is reasonable with enough public education by the village, announcements, putting information in the utility bills, much like you have announced other public concern protocols and ordinances. Then if someone sees a 5-year timeline, they go, you know, I need to do something about this. So we feel that the 5 years is reasonable. Anything much more than that would just create laziness, at least for me.
Shelley, Gary has.
Oh, Gary?
My question is for you, Mayor Lindsay.
Yes, sir.
You know, Gary's a Terra member of the committee, of course. And I heard what I think is conflicting, so I'd like some clarification from you. You were mentioning the, maybe dropping the 10 PM requirement to shut the lights off. And then you mentioned as a reason for it is somebody was late at coming in the airport.
That was Owen Curry's example.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was you. Sorry, I thought it was you instead. But that was mentioned. And then I believe you said something to the effect of, but if somebody leaves their lights on every night, all night, then that has to be addressed. So how will that be addressed if we drop the 10 after 10?
I think that's broad enough that it could be brought up under that's one of the few examples that could possibly be brought up under the current nuisance ordinance discussion. I mean, again, I think it's gonna take some time, but I'm with Owen too, I don't like, I mean, again, people entertain past 10 o'clock, I mean, there could be times that those lights are gonna be on, but if it's a constant issue, and I wanna point out, the bigger thing here is, these are the little hangups that we get with this document that has prevented it from going forward. So what I would like to see is enough grace where possible on existing, or scrap the whole thing and only go new construction. Because I don't wanna continue to have this debate personally. I don't wanna waste the committee's time or the council's time any further. I would like to get this document through, but I wanna make sure that if people wanna have a light on past 10 PM, that's okay. A lot of people leave Dallas at noon and don't get here till midnight. And it's nice to have a light on when you get here. So I don't wanna, to Owen's point, hinder that.
But you're saying that if there is a light on all night, every night by one particular person, that would be complaint driven?
Yeah, I
Is
believe
it-
so.
okay.
And I'll be honest, I think no matter how well we police this, it's gonna be complaint driven no matter what.
Sure.
Even in 5-10 years from now.
Okay.
But I do wanna start setting an example, as well. And I think to Shelley's point, I mean, if nobody's doing anything, nobody's gonna do anything. If you see your neighbors doing it, if you're aware of it, most people aren't even aware of this issue, outside of this area and other dark sky communities. So we just have to start somewhere, but without getting overly aggressive. And I think, again, this iteration is the most palatable and has the best possibilities of getting through this body.
Well, thank you for your explanation. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with the document as impacted by the discussion tonight. And to add one personal example, I have an Airbnb directly across the street from me. That street at that point is very dark, and every time someone comes in there in the night, they drive up and down the road 3 or 4 times before they finally identify that that's the house.
So
So,
that's an example, I mean, where lighting is definitely beneficial.
Right, well, and there again, after the 5-year period, when the lights are fully shielded, downward facing, night sky compliant, they can be on all night. They can be on past 10 if you have your guest arriving,
I think-
because they're not going to be interfering with other
And we've
properties.
made it this far, and if we can make it just another 5 years, and hopefully in the first year, we start to see a decrease. But I think that's something that I have to agree with Counselor Curry and Counselor Howe is, maybe some grace on the existing, for the greater good, as you pointed out, to get this document through.
So you're saying modify it how,
Take out the 10 PM curfew.
right, but that's, so yes, committee?
Can I jump in just for a
Yeah.
second? Sorry, Mindy Nash, also on the committee. The current ordinance that we have in place now does require all lights to be fully shielded, down pointing, and we have an automatic cutoff at 11 PM already. So I guess I don't understand why we would get rid of it entirely. Like, I think
So Jake's point was that it's not enforceable. I think that those big nuisance ones, we can begin to enforce with complaints. I mean, that's what I'm saying, it's gonna be complaint driven. And again, I don't wanna hang up on this one issue for the sake of the whole document. But especially if we're gonna allow lights to stay on around the clock if they are compliant.
Which does. This ordinance allows any dark skylight to stay on 24/7. You can turn them all on. I will apologize if there are if somebody's put 5 wall packs on their home, yeah, I'm gonna ask them to turn those off. I'd ask them to turn them off today,
Yeah.
if I could. So I get the hang up on the 10 PM, but let's not act like removing the 10 PM. You have the option of leaving every can light on, every down light on, every shielded, that already exists in this. So we're getting rid of the 10 PM to exempt, in my opinion, the worst offending lights.
Yeah,
and
that's why.
the current ordinance has also been in place since 2002. So the idea that this is 5 years to come into compliance, it's not. You've had 24 years, so it's 29 years to come into compliance. at this point. So, I don't know, I feel like we're not gonna get recognized by dark skies if we don't do the things that they say that we have to do. And part of their thing is, if it's not compliant, you have to turn them off, so.
Well, I think we may have to wait 5 years then to be dark sky compliant.
Sure,
unless the council
sure, I
sees
just don't
different.
think we can cut it out entirely, is my point, like, moving it 5 years down the road, like saying, okay, in 5 years, turn it off at 10 if you're not compliant, to me,
Yeah,
that's
I know
reasonable.
Owen's referring to, and Councilor Howe reiterated the fact that we are a heavy tourist community, and to turn off lights at 10 PM may actually have some health and safety concerns, if nothing other than just convenience of not driving up and down looking for the location. Again, if we're gonna keep a 5-year time frame, it's better than what we have now, that's what I keep trying to explain to the committee. All of this would be better than what we have now, but the longer that you hang up on the small details that doesn't get it through, we're gonna go through another building season, or we may just get committee fatigue at this point, which I would understand, and scrap the whole thing, which is not what I want to see happen.
Can I ask you, you said earlier that the nuisance ordinance that was in place, that's complaint driven?
Yes,
Who do you complain to? Like, that's,
you can complain to the code enforcement official,
okay,
which we do currently have one.
okay.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we should start utilizing when it's an egregious. Again, I can give you examples, and I know I don't want to start defining every single one, but the guy that has 4 floodlights that come on every single night, stay on all night, completely unshielded, and they're not even there, and no one uses the house for long periods of time. The car wash, fire station number 2, all good examples.
Sure, but if we enact a new ordinance that gets rid of the turn off your light if it's not compliant after this time, that gets rid of the current way that we have to address that, which is to complain if it's on after 11, if it's not compliant.
So I think if you want to put some language into that effect, again, I don't want to limit it to 10 PM. That's what I have to agree with.
Would
Ellen
11,
Curry.
would 11 be better?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay,
Again, I think if there's something that could be put in there where there's a light on all the time,
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
There are, the dark sky lights can be on all the time.
well,
Right.
maybe an
Right.
entrance light.
And again, if we
you
can
know.
get to 5, if we get this passed, we'll get to 5 years and then everybody's gonna be happy. But in the meantime, we're gonna continue to debate this and we're never gonna get anywhere. I think we're just getting hung up on these small things. I don't want my code compliance officer, number 1, doesn't work at 10 PM. 2, so these will all be addressed during the daytime. And I don't want their schedule completely full of this at the same, that's been a concern as well. I just want people to be able to come and go, find the location that they're looking for, and again, if we'd have passed this 2 years ago, it'd be 3 years before we're fully compliant, but now we're still looking down the barrel at 5.
we're still not compliant though, if people can have their lights on if they're non-compliant in 5 years.
Is there any other points that we need to discuss this evening on this?
Don't think so, thank you.
Ms. Joy, did you have something to add?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, as I sat and listened tonight, you mentioned construction ordinances, and I have a perfect example down from me. Remember, everybody doesn't have a big lot, and a lot of the lots that are being sold now are much narrower and much steeper. Someone built $1 million house, it's beautiful, it's great. The house that's being built next door to it is 2 stories, very narrow. Their setbacks have to be next to each other. And today when I got there, I saw the 2nd story. What effect is that going to have on the first house built? Because I think if they don't turn off lights, that house next door is not going to be able to go to bed at night. There's too much light. That goes to construction and what should be allowed and which should not be allowed. I believe in this ordinance, I think you need to do it. Ordinances are living documents,
Agreed.
and
So you just reiterated my point.
I
I'd love to see the
understand.
new construction, because had we passed it 2 years ago, that house would have regulations today.
But we haven't.
Exactly.
So that's
my
where we
point.
are.
Yeah.
The ordinance will work if you have non-conforming lights that have to be off at 10 PM. You haven't heard anything. If they are non-conforming lights. If you have conforming lights, they can stay on, as Councilman Crane has said. But I'm just suggesting that if you're gonna deal with this, you need to be sure that you're not creating a hazard and a loss of use of property for your neighbor. And that's
And
what
that
it's
could be
gonna
said
be.
too, of it not having a light on because it's illegal to have it on, and somebody showing up at midnight trying to find the house or gain access
Sure.
to the house. So that argument could go both ways. Again, I don't wanna get too hung up on that one point, because I think we're so close to getting this.
I want you to adopt it now, and then if we
So that's what
see
my
the
point
problem.
is, if we want, I would be fully in favor of adopting the new construction portion, and then continuing to hash out the rest, as you said, a living document. But I would hate to, at this point, with as much work's gone into it, as close as we are, see that happen. And hopefully I don't have a vote in this. I just wanna make it palatable for the council and the citizens of Angel Fire.
Well, and I agree, the public is what's important, that's who you represent,
Exactly.
is the public. But the ordinance, as it's written now, what I am hearing is that someone would like not to have the 10 PM lights off. What I'm hearing Councilman Crane say, that only applies if you're non-compliant.
Right. So it
And you
gives
got 5 years to do
That
it.
gives you, you get 5 years, but otherwise you have to turn it off at 10 PM. I understand.
What if I may, what if there was just verbiage into the non-conforming properties that pathways and entry lots could stay lit past the 10 PM
If they were non-conforming pathways and entry lights,
on
so
non-conforming
so
properties?
basically give a 5-year exemption on those.
Yeah. That's a compromise.
I think that's all up to the committee. I'm hearing from that.
And I don't wanna get stuck on these smaller points for the greater. Shelley, you-
And I think that's a good idea also, is if the need for non-compliant lights for the next 5 years is just for ingress and egress for tenants coming or even a homeowner coming, well, an entry light or garage light or something being exempt, I find that reasonable. I'll have to take it back to committee, and then I want to repeat myself that we don't want perfection to stand in the way of something that's really
I
good.
think we agree on that.
So, any other comments or statements? So procedurally, then, the committee would have to modify some wording to adjust.
It sounds slightly, and then again, we have to get it to our attorneys.
Right.
Before we have a document that we can actually vote on.
So what would be the process? Again, we're aiming for something soon. If we bring something that's somewhat different to a council meeting, or do we have to bring it back to a workshop?
Based on, I think we've touched on the points that we all felt like needed to be addressed, and I don't know that we need to have another workshop. To Councilor Howe's point, move forward with changes as discussed, as minor as they are. I would make them clear, the changes. Councilors have an opportunity to read it, of course, before the council meeting, and they'll make that decision. Andrew, what do you-
Mayor and council, yeah, so what would happen is the committee would make a recommendation to the council to approve an ordinance. And when we receive that recommendation, we'll then submit that to legal counsel. When it comes back from legal counsel, it'll be placed on the next agenda. We would notify, of course, the committee of any changes legal counsel made. But at that point, it would be eligible to be on an agenda for the council to vote on.
But does the council need to have an agenda item to take it to council?
No. The committee needs to vote to recommend to take something to council. that will trigger legal counsel review. And once legal counsel's done reviewing it, we would then, your vote would then take whatever legal counsel came back with to the council. Unless it was, the legal counsel had some really dramatic changes, then we would go back to the committee and say, hey, you guys are gonna have to deal with these things from the lawyer. But usually that's not the case. Usually it's pretty nominal legalese, and then if that's the case, it just goes to council for approval. So, and just so you know, since it's ordinance, there's multiple steps in that process. So first, the council has to vote to proceed. That's not approving the ordinance. Once they vote to proceed, we have to publicize it for 15 days in the local newspaper, which is the Taos News. And once that's done, then we have to have a public hearing, which we do in our meetings, and we open the floor to the public to speak on an item. And then only after it's been publicized for 15 days and we've held a public hearing, only then can the council vote to approve or disapprove it.
But I'll check with you later for clarification on the steps. If the committee then makes a recommendation, then it goes to legal, it doesn't go to a council meeting first before legal?
No.
No.
Okay, yeah, that was a misunderstanding I had. Okay, so then our committee will meet, modify, and then we'll make a recommendation that this ordinance be presented to council. And then, so we don't really know a timeline then, as far as meetings or agendas and stuff.
Well, as soon as you can get it to legal counsel,
Right.
legal counsel can take 3 to 4 weeks to get a document back to
Okay,
us.
okay. And then, to someone else's point about hearing two different things, from you, Mayor, I've heard, this is palatable and I will support it. I was hoping more for the I will support it part than just palatable. It's palatable, we really need your support.
And I think I'm giving you exactly that. I can assure you right now that I feel like this is the right thing for Angel Fire, but we have a lot of citizens in town, and quite frankly, I think a lot more are less inclined to do anything than to do anything. And so I want to make it palatable for them to accept this change.
Okay. And so the palatable would be having non-compliant lights have an exception for ingress, egress.
And basically, I guess that's my concern, and I don't want to speak for Councilor Curry, but again, unless there's a 2-2 tie for it and against it, I wouldn't even have a vote in this matter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, again, thank you for your time and especially for Jake's guidance for us throughout the process. And we'll get the committee together and hopefully have something that's palatable to send to legal.
I do appreciate you and the entire committee and Councilor Crane for getting us this far.
Well, and I really think, again, I'm allowing myself to repeat myself, if not now, when, because
We're on the same page.
yeah, with the village's desire to grow and become a Breckenridge, well, let's have this in place before we're Breckenridge.
There you go. Much easier.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks again.
thank you. Okay. I think that concludes the discussion on item A. Moving on to item B. I'd like to open the discussion to elect a mayor pro tem. At this time, I would ask if there's any nominations from the council for a mayor pro tem.
I nominate Councilor Crane for Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second.
Any discussion? There's no further discussion. Clerk,
Okay, I didn't know that was the motion. All right. Roll call vote on old business, item B, for Councilor Crane to be the mayor pro tem. Councilor Howe?
Aye.
Councilor Crane?
Aye.
Councilor Weeks?
Aye.
And Councilor Curry. Motion passed.
Thank you all very much.
Congratulations.
You.
Okay, moving on to item B. I'd like to open discussion to approve a property management service agreement.
You skipped.
I'm sorry, I was on the wrong item B. I've got item A under new business. I'd like to open discussion to approve appointment of Latrell Joy, a non-voting member to the Dark Sky Committee.
You need me to speak on that? Okay.
Please do.
The Night Sky Committee would appreciate the council's consideration of adding Latrell Joy to our committee. She's not a full-time resident in Angel Fire, so she'd be another non-voting member. We already have one. But she brings a skill set with her of having a legal background, so she's been helping us with legalese in some respects. And also she's been a member of Lubbock City Council for many, many years. So she's helping us also with kind of the operations of how city governance works. And so she's added quite a bit to our committee. And so we would like to invite her to be a member of our committee, even though maybe not voting.
Manager Ware.
Mayor, council, I would like to make a point out and just fully disclose that although it was village policy not to allow non-residents to be voting members, that policy changed, I don't know, 6 months ago, 9 months ago. Now, so I just want to make it clear that a non-resident is allowed to be a voting member of a committee now, if you so choose.
Just not the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Just not the planning and zoning or lodgers tax.
All our other committees, you can have non-residents.
She could be voting.
Then can we modify our request?
You can, we haven't made a motion yet.
Okay, we modify our request that Latrell be a voting member, and can I add now that Gary Zentera, who lives in Taos Pines, has been considered a non-voting member to this point. Could we just change his status to voting to be in sync with the new policies?
Can you tell me how many members you have on, how many voting members you have on?
Okay, currently we have 4 voting members.
And so,
That would give us 6 voting
Latrell
members.
would give you 5.
Yeah.
We do like to keep it an odd number of
Okay.
voting members,
Oh, okay.
if possible. And because Gary's not on the agenda, I'm good at modifying, asking for the council to modify the motion to approve Latrell Joy as a voting member. Councilor Crane?
You might consider, I agree with the mayor, keeping it to odd makes voting much simpler.
Okay.
You might poll your members and see if there's someone that Gary might want to swap with. If you have a voting member that would want to step down, if Gary could come in, that
Okay.
might change your math a little bit.
Or
and
if
we
you
could-
wanted to find one more.
Let's do that.
To go to 7.
And that's just harder to get together sometimes.
Okay, that makes
We'll leave
sense.
the ball in your court.
Yeah, and since the agenda was set that way, then we're just gonna modify the current agenda, fix it later, or modify it again, so, thank you.
So with that, if there's no further discussion, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem Crane to make a motion, a modified motion.
I will make a motion to approve Latrell Joy as a voting member of the Dark Sky Committee.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item A. Mayor Pro Tem Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Curry. Motion passed.
Okay, now move on to item B. Open discussion to approve property management services agreement. Mr. Lira.
Mayor Lindsay, Mayor Pro Tem Crane, Council, Manager Ware, Clerk Strickland. Clerk Strickland, did you hand out a, okay.
Yeah.
In front of you, you should have an amendment to the Property Management Services Agreement for the Workforce Housing Committee project. And the Property Management Service Agreement is already executed and been approved by you. I am asking for approval for an amendment, 2 amendments. One amendment is to amend this contract period to be 15 months in duration instead of 12 months, beginning on December 1st, 2025, which it already has, and terminating on February 28th, 2027. Reason for that is the delays. We'd like to have our property manager have a full year of managing the tenants of our properties. And so we suspect we'll have rentals starting in February to the February of '27. The second amendment would be to, the current agreement has leases, tenant leases for 1 year and 6 months. And recently, the Workforce Housing Committee has recommended that we add 3-month leases to the contract to this. And so this is also another amendment, is to include a 3-month tenant lease as well as a 6-month and a 1 year.
Just a point of clarification, the governance document still gives favor to the longer lease terms. In other words, tenants are going to be ranked, the longer the lease, the more likely they are to get a unit. And second, for those that don't remember, the rents go up pretty dramatically from a 1, 6, or 3 month.
Right.
So,
Do you need to be informed of those rental amounts?
It wouldn't hurt if you have them.
Okay.
I don't see them.
A 1 year tenant lease is $1,100 per month, including the water and sewer. A 6-month lease is $1,300 a month, including water and sewer. And a 3-month lease is $1,500 a month, including water and sewer.
This may not be the right time to ask this question, but it is one I've had since the last meeting. Are we gonna require tenants to be, in other words, are they gonna have to be registered driver's license, Village of Angel Fire? Or does anybody working here qualify? Maybe
Mayor, council, the governance documents require somebody to prove that they're employed by an employer located within the village limits. There's a lot of people living in Guadalupita now, they're not gonna have an ID that shows that they live here, they don't live here. So they have to be able to prove that they're employed by an employer located within the village limits.
That is true.
yeah, I don't think it specifically asks that ID question, though. I don't know, was in New Mexico, when you change addresses, chief, how long before you're supposed to update your ID?
There's 2 different things on that. 30 days is generally when you change cities or towns. It can go up to 6 months for other things, which I can't quote to you right now. And then like military deployment and so forth, those can go on inevitably.
There's a question. Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, for discussion, on the first page, property management services, go down to item 6, term and schedule. I'm recommending a change where it says, will require management of 6 manufactured home properties between December 1, 2025 and May 30, 2026. My recommendation is we change that to read to December 31st, 26.
Randy Ware?
We want to make it February 28th, I'm sorry, because we're trying to extend the contract to February 28th. So that date, I agree with your change.
Right.
It's just instead of December 31st, it needs to be the end of the term of the contract, which
February 28th,
which would be February 28th.
2027.
I think we talked about previously, we were talking about December, that's my fault.
Right.
I forgot we were extending that contract, so it should just be February 28th.
And additionally, turn over to scope of work.
What page are you on?
It's Exhibit A, scope of work.
Okay.
And come down to the second paragraph, I would recommend the same change, but as the language in both currently are the same, so.
Did you find it on
It's page 8. So I guess to Councilman Howe's point, by adopting this modification, will that go in and fix the dates on all pages in this contract? Or do we need to be called out specifically page by page?
Well, it will, but this is another measure to assure that we have the dates correct. And I think that the way it was originally written, the interpretation is what we're trying to accomplish. I don't think we're changing anything. We're just clarifying what the dates are. When this contract was developed, they used the language additional 24 units. But I do agree, after discussing with Councilman Howe, that it could be confusing depending on how you read it. So I think this change that he's recommending just clarifies and makes it where there's less chance of confusion.
So could we simply make the motion to adopt this and change the end date of the contract anywhere listed, updated to the February 28th date?
That's correct.
Any further discussion? If not, I would ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion on item B, approving changes to previously approved property management service agreement, modifying the end date to February 28th, 2027.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item B. Mayor Pro Tem Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Curry. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Moving on to item C, I'd like to open discussion to approve resolution 2026-08, write-off outstanding amounts on PID properties.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Manager Ware, and Clerk Strickland, I'm actually gonna let the Village's Process Administrator, Chris Bechtel, address this. And also the next item on the agenda as well.
Mayor Lindsay, Mayor Pro Tem Crane, Council Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. I come before you for Resolution 2026-08. This is with the Public Improvement District. I'm going to call it the PID here on out. This is, we have an agreement with the PID to write off all debts on properties that they acquire from the moment they acquire. These are 26 properties that we came across while doing our delinquent properties project that are set records on the county assessor's site show that they are now owned by the PID, one of which has since been sold off, and we need to write all of these debts off.
Hasn't closed yet, closes day after tomorrow. It's been sold, but it hasn't closed.
Okay. Still, we're supposed to have written this off from the moment of the PID acquiring it.
So what about the circumstance of a PID property owner whose property has not been acquired by the PID, but they still owe?
This only applies to properties acquired by the PID.
Only. Yeah, so.
Only.
So if.
Sorry, I didn't.
And secondly, will the other entities that would be owed money, are they doing something similar?
Manager Weir.
Yes, Mayor, Council, both the resort and the PID themselves are making adjustments to this. The one entity that is not making adjustment is the state. So property taxes will continue to have to be paid. Although these acquisitions by the PID are being made through auction, and so effectively the auction price covers whatever the outstanding balance is from state property taxes. So that's how the state's recouping their money. If there was extra money, we would be next in line, but there never is, because these always sell for less than what is owed in property taxes.
Any other questions or discussion? That's Mayor Pro Tem Crane to make a motion.
Make a motion on item C, approve resolution 2026-08, write off outstanding amounts on PID properties.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item C. Mayor Pro Tem Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Curry. Motion passed.
Okay, moving on to item D, open discussion to approve resolution.
I have a question there, I don't know.
Did you have a question, Nicole?
I do.
Well, was it pertaining to the last item?
both items because they're presented together.
Oh, okay. Let me open the discussion on item D to approve resolution 2026-09, writing off outstanding amounts on delinquent properties. I guess before we do it, what, questions?
Yes. Mayor, City Council, Village Clerk. I hate the word PID because it doesn't demonstrate what we really have here. It's a public improvement district. And at the time that the PID was formed, and there was an election that was passed, there was none of this special provisions. That provision was signed in September of 22, signed by Mayor, at that time, Nixon. There was no action item for the council. It was never approved by the council. I am assuming that this may be an attempt to say, okay, what you did is okay. But my other concern is that this agreement that was reached whereby if there's not a bid at the state auction, then the PID can purchase that property at a minimum and offer it for sale at that point. And there are some requirements in this agreement. I know that City Manager Weir is aware of this agreement. In 2022, I purchased a property at the tax sale. And I will tell you this, that trying to find information from the PID office was an adventure because they really couldn't tell us exactly how much, and they certainly couldn't tell us what the resort fees were, and we had no way of knowing what the water fees were at that point in time. And so there were, I think, 3 people who bid at that sale. And what's important about this today is what we do going forward, because this expires December 31st of 2026. The question that council person Howe asked, it is addressed in this agreement. It says that if you purchase at a sale, you do it at you do it at your own risk. And you have to pay. So it does bind you. It does not bind the public improvement district. They decide which properties to purchase, and they are obligated under the agreement to market those properties. And when it says market, to me that means you got to give notice, 30 days notice at least, so that other people can bid. Because what happens, the public improvement district, they can take a property they bought at the sale, they've got to pay the county taxes for sure, but other than that, they don't have any obligations to pay anything. And so what happens is you're basically forgiving debt. You're forgiving the debt to the PID, you are forgiving the debt to the resort, you are forgiving the debt if the village approves it for the water. And so you're forgiving debt, and then they are to market it. My concern is, and having been through this process, I think I have a pretty good idea about changes, things that you could do that would be better. I looked at all the properties that are listed. None of them, they have to be at least 3 years delinquent before they can do this agreement. But the numbers that are in there, if I compare it to the numbers they gave me in October of 2022, the past dues on the lot that I purchased were almost $14,000. None of these are even close to that. So these have to be short term. So the question is, how were they selected?
Are you talking about dues, or are you talking
I'm
about water and sewer bills?
No, I'm talking about the PID assessment of some $2,000 plus annually.
Yeah. I mean, I have to, I've bought PID lots as well.
Sure.
Well, previous before the PID was buying them. And I knew I had to find out what was owed from the resort, the village, state and county, I mean, and those numbers are available if you,
Oh, we worked very hard to get all the numbers. But what the problem was, we were not aware that there was this agreement. We went to the PID office 3 or 4 times. The lady there would tell us how much PID was owed, but she didn't tell us there was an agreement. And you could have waited, I guess, at your own risk. You could have waited and let the PID purchase it and then try to buy it from the PID. But if they did it the way it was supposed to be done, it should have been marketed for other people. But you can't, you've got to have some relationship between what's been forgiven in all of the entities before you have any idea of how to market. We were told by the Public Improvement District, they can't tell us anything about the resort. Gotta go to the resort. We went to the resort. So I'm just saying to you, this is really a burden on the people who are in the PID or were in the PID and are still paying. Think how many people there are that are in this public improvement district that are still paying on their assessments. There were, and this is all information that I got from the PID office at the time. There were 200 lots that were delinquent at that time. 45 of them had never paid a dime. We all know it covered water, electrical, sewer, all of that. The assessments in 22 were $2,801, and those go up about 2% every year.
so every lot was different. I'm not sure,
It depends on whether you've got sewer, I get that.
well, it depends on the size.
And
of
the
lot.
size.
There's a lot of factors.
That's right.
No 2 lots have the same assessment.
That's right. And some of the lots are really small. But I don't know that anybody wants any of those lots at this point in time. But I think questions are how the Public Improvement District has operated. We need more transparency.
So, and I can understand that, but we of course don't have anything, we can't govern how the Public Improvement District operates. What we can do is support them in getting PID lots into performing hands, because these bills that we're writing off aren't getting paid and they're never gonna get paid. The best thing for the village is to have these lots in a performing owner's hands, to where they do.
Well, and we don't have any assurance that somebody who comes along and buys
And there's
that.
not, there's a list, to your point, there's a long list that came out this summer, and some are slowly selling, but they're not just flying the day they go on the market.
No,
They do have a realtor that they list and market these lots with, but again, we don't have anything to do with that.
I understand that your mayor at the time signed this agreement.
So that's your point.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is my point. I'm also a little bit concerned about forgiveness of debt. Does that become a 1099 issue for the IRS? I would think it would.
Manager Weir, you can speak to, I mean, not just PID, but we have, maybe Adrian, but what's our policy on when do we write off, not just PID, but anybody that owes the village?
Mayor, Council, the state statute provides for a statute of limitation on utility bills of 6 years. If you're, have a contract for service, and 4 years if you don't have a contract for service. And on these, this is a special situation. It is not a breach of anti-donation because the PID is a quasi-government agency, so it's not subject to anti-donation. And that's the only reason why we're allowed to do this, especially for the PID, is because they're actually a subdivision of the village, even though our only jurisdiction is to appoint board members. We have no jurisdiction currently to tell the board members what to do, but they are a subunit of the village, and as a government agency, there is, the anti-donation clause does not apply.
And my understanding is this was an agreement between the village, the PID, the resort, and approved by New Mexico Taxation and Revenue.
Well, in county, supposedly, is.
Well, the
is
county gets
part.
paid, to your point.
I
They're the only
understand.
ones that do get paid.
That's right. The other,
Mayor, Council, I just want to be clear, the county doesn't get paid, just, this may be maybe it's not a big distinction, but the state actually
The
gets
state,
paid.
through the
The
county.
state can choose whether to reimburse the county
Yeah.
for their portion of the property taxes. But I can tell you this, when the state gets paid, we don't get anything from property taxes unless the sale of the property exceeds the amount owed to the state. And I imagine the county is the same way. They don't get anything unless the sale of the property exceeds the amount owed to the state. Because there is a pecking order, it's state, county, us, and, if you were to sue and file bankruptcy or whatever, there's a pecking order of which organizations get paid first based on the funds available.
as of June 30th, 2023, according to the Public Improvement District, the delinquent amount for all the lots was $7.9 million.
Now, and again, is that total?
No, this is only for Public Improvement
So
District.
again,
I can't find out the rest of the
And I
resort.
appreciate this conversation, but we have nothing to do with it. We are not.
Well, you do. It is part of Angel Fire. You're not responsible for the debt. That's the good part.
Right.
The purpose of the Public Improvement District is to help the developer or the applicant, who in this case was the resort, to do all these improvements. I get it. That's what a bid's for. But concern for the future, what do you do when you've got this much? And here are the payments.
So if I may, that's exactly what they are doing. For concern of the future, this was the solution to the problem, was to absolve the previous debt and sell them, hopefully, well, I know their goal is, I don't know what they're selling for, is to pay off all the future PID that still remains.
I understand.
To keep the PID solvent.
I understand what the goal is. My question is the goal really being attained? Or are we just digging a bigger hole? Because these properties that are listed, they can't be much less than 3 years. In other words, you can't do anything unless it's more than 3 years in delinquency.
All right.
What does it do for the people who have continued to pay on theirs when we've got all this money that's still owed? I don't know. This is an issue.
The attempt is to keep the PID from going bankrupt.
I understand. But this agreement, which expires in the end of this year, needs to be reconsidered. That's my whole point. It really does not do what the goal was, and there's another way that you can do it. If my lot, for example, I had $14,000 in back PID, paid them, no problem. You can also prepay your PID if you want. And then the resort, I had another 9,000 or 10,000 there, okay? So there's got to be some relationship between what we are forgiving and the fair market value of the lot. I haven't seen that, okay? And part of it's because I don't know everything. What I know is what I obtained at the time. I want you to seriously consider.
And so that's their goal. Because currently, if someone were to wanted to buy one of these lots, including myself, there's a lot of them I'd love to buy. But because of the back dues PID,
That's right.
Village, it's not anywhere near the fair market value. It's 3 or 4 or 5 times more than that.
I understand, but neither should you be able to benefit from a fire sale on those lots. You should be sure that you come up with a number that will take into consideration what you're giving.
I don't know if there's been a fire sale because I have appointed. I know there's a lot of lots that came out in June, and I would beg to say 25% have been sold.
The other thing is the public improvement district, the majority of the lots belong to the resort. They're the owners, and so when
In
you.
good standing and paid off. The resort.
I
paid off
understand,
all
and I
those
know
lots.
that, they paid off theirs, or they paid off their future. That's good. So when they sell a lot, they don't have to deal with that unless their assessments for their assessments, but that goes back to them. I guess they have to do what?
I would love to have a discussion with you outside of a council meeting for any solutions that you have to the pit
Okay.
problem, because it is a big one.
Well,
Did you have anything you want to add, Councilman?
I would say that, you know, a year, 2 years ago, at a pit sale, you could have picked up one of these lots for $5,000. Now, they have increased the price of these lots to help try to pay down more
debt.
towards the debt. And I'm pretty sure that if you buy one of these lots, you still owe the future, you still owe from current and on.
That's right.
But they
There's a
are,
lot of them that aren't worth $5,000 today.
Oh, there are some odd shaped lots, let's put it like that.
So again, I would love to have that conversation.
I just want you to be
Any
aware.
solutions going forward that we can
That's
consider before we.
That is my reason, I'm not here to complain about what I did or somebody else did. I'm here to say there's a better way.
I'm always open to hear that.
Okay, thank you.
Continuing on with our discussion.
Do you want your pen back?
Oh, yes, that's my favorite pen.
Mayor Lindsay, Mayor Pro Tem Crane, Council Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland, I come before you for item D, which is the write-off on the remaining delinquent properties from this project, the non-PID owned ones. Again, as Manager Weir mentioned when answering her question, we are required by state law to write off over 6 years worth of debt, 6 years and older. All of these amounts on this table are calculated to be 6 years or older. The date we used was the billing date of 1/31/2019. So every bill from before that, 2018 and before, is considered older than 6 years and was added to the calculations.
Any questions?
And I have any-
Motion.
Make a motion on item D, approving resolution 2026-09, write-off outstanding amounts on delinquent properties.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item D. Mayor Pro Tem Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Curry. Motion passed.
Okay, finally on the agenda, item E, I'd like to, well, it's just a discussion item. Village of Angel Administrative Policy 2026-01, amendment to utility payment plans. Manager Weir.
Mayor, council, under my authority as village manager to issue village administrative policies. I wanted to make you aware, this policy, we do intend on including this in ordinance, but until we do, we're gonna start going by this policy, and it simply says how are we gonna deal with utility bills that are outstanding. Current ordinance only doesn't have any path to deal with this. It states specifically that somebody's water can be turned off after 60 days, or 90, 60, after 60 days. So it's not really a solution to deal with people who may be delinquent in their utility bills. And so if you like, we can go through this policy, but basically this is a policy I've executed so that the utility department can start working with people to pay their outstanding balances. I will tell you that In the near future, we will be bringing on a collection agency, and that's both of these last two things are part of preparing for that collection agency. And we're gonna start collecting, and if people are 90 days in arrears, we're gonna turn it over to the collection agency if they're not willing to work out a plan. The collection agency is gonna start enforcing it, which means people will have dings on their credit record. They will, of course, we will start turning off water meters. In this process, we found several water meters that had been in a significant amount in arrears for a significant amount of time that hadn't been turned off and should have been. And so we're kind of steering the ship straight and trying to put in policies so that we can have an ongoing effective approach to dealing with people that are behind in their utility bills. That's what this administrative policy is all about. With that said, I stand for any questions.
Just a random thought on, so that's only if you're getting an active utility bill. I know I had a situation with lot combinations recently. You have a bare lot that gets water availability, wildland fees, those types of things. But in those situations, we don't have anything to turn on or off, right?
We will still utilize this policy to try and resolve those. We're going after everybody, not just people with utilities. But you're right, if you don't have a meter, we can't turn your water off. If you don't have any water, we can't turn it off, so. But we will continue to use these policies as a path forward to try and bring people in compliance.
All right. No further questions or discussion? The meeting is adjourned.
Ileana, anything there? Or just his signature on that?
Specifically.